Christmas is one of those times of year where there's actually a distinct set of standards that people record through each generational change in music. You know, Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, even traditional songs such as What Child Is This, so on and so forth. And that makes Christmas music a very unique thing. You only generally listen to it during a season. And I only have 5 Christmas albums on vinyl. My father has many, many more, and I was going to ask him if I could include those. And even though those vinyl records that he has feel like a part of me, they aren't really my records. So I wanted to focus on the ones that I have. And recently I've thought, maybe it's good that I build up more of a collection of Christmas albums in any format, or Christmas music in general. But here's the 5 that I have. And I'm going to start out with one that's very special to me. I actually haven't listened to it in years, but I want to bring it back out. And this is the original Jackson 5 Christmas album from 1970. And, the Jackson 5 were a group that actually epitomized something that I'll get into a little later in this video that's kind of somewhat unrelated to music. And that's they epitomized at that time, well, any children's group epitomized the quality of innocence that comes around Christmas, the wonder, the excitement of lights, and things such as that. And I don't really think it's sentimental at all. I think it's just wonder is wonder, and it keeps us going in life, all of us. And, I can't think of any group, particularly this poor guy right here, R.I.P. MJ, of course, who epitomized the loss of innocence more so. But it doesn't make me sad to listen to this music. I mean, especially their version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town. They kind of made it their own standard. The Jackson 5 weren't the first family of soul. That was the 5 Stair Steps. But they were Motown's first family of soul, as far as I was concerned. And they really bought it out in Motown's early LA years. And this is a fantastic album. If you love the early Jackson 5 stuff, the ABC, the I Want You Back, the Love You Safe, all those classics, this is right in that style of Jackson 5, This, and there's little, kind of mildly comic dialogues from Michael Jackson and his brothers that are just wonderful on here. It's just a great Christmas album to share the memories of, what great the Jackson 5 did for music. And this is on the Motown label, of course. There's the back of it. Kind of an interesting cover design for a Christmas album. A little psychedelic in some ways. These aren't necessarily in order of year, so. The next one, I actually have a very interesting history with this album. My father's, well, I should say friend of the entire family's, Peter Cummings, shout out to you, Peter, was one of the people who loaned my father this album. I don't know if it was in the 90s or sometime in the new millennium. And I actually bought this recently at a suggestion of my boyfriend Scott. He actually has a copy of this album too. And it's Christmas in the Stars, the Star Wars Christmas album, featuring the original cast, R2-D2, Anthony Daniels as CP3O. Now, as of this particular video, The Last Jedi has just come out. Star Wars has leapt back into the cultural consciousness in a huge way in the last 3 or 4 years. And this came out roughly around the time of The Empire Strikes Back, a movie that a lot of people see as Star Wars' finest moment came out. And, as with Star Wars' strange holiday special in 1978, this was when the Star Wars universe, which is massive today, was still kind of being, improvised. It was being made as it went along, and, they had something called Life Day in that Christmas special, and here they're actually talking about Christmas. It's, again, infamous as being a really poor Christmas album, but I didn't get it for that reason. I just wanted to see what it was, and see what it had to offer. There's actually a lot of original Christmas songs and some interesting dialogue. Of course, it's focused on the 2 robots, but And it's on RSO Records, so I don't think I need to show you that necessarily. And this is a dollar bin find, interestingly enough. But might be an interesting holiday curio, you know. This one I actually got during the holiday season this year, only a couple weeks ago. The Whispers, Happy Holidays to You. You know, this album is actually from 1979, and it has a wonderful song on it called Funky Christmas. You know, if you like the Whispers, I actually have another Whispers Christmas album that was recorded in the 90s, which is absolutely wonderful, but this is another great such album. And they mix some traditional songs with some new ones they made. Of course, the inside's a little strange because it's an Elektra insert, but it's a Solar promotional pressing. My favorite song on here is Funky Christmas. Superb holiday-themed boogie funk song. Johnny Cash, The Christmas Spirit. You know, my country collection is pretty small, but, you know, Johnny Cash was an icon, and his music remains so to this day. Again, this came from my boyfriend Scott. He had a double of this. This is a later pressing, if you look at it. It's a 70s pressing, probably. The thing about this album, from what I've heard, you know, the tone of it is actually very pious and religious, from what I understand. But it would still be interesting to hear Christmas songs done in that classic Johnny Cash style, so it's going to be interesting to hear this. This is not really an album of music per se, but it is an important part of my childhood. And this is actually a complete story and soundtrack. And what it is basically the audio of the Rankin and Bass TV special, Frostys Winter Wonderland, presented by Disneyland Records, interestingly enough. And I've actually seen this as an adult. I didn't actually see it when I was growing up. But it's wonderfully visualized. I love this special, and this soundtrack really brought me into it. The idea of Jack Frost as kind of a impish character who was trying to, you know, take the credit for winter and everything. And it's actually a good extension on Frosty the Snowman, more so than Frosty Returns is, and I think it's lesser known. There are some stills from the Rankin Bass show. Andy Griffith, the late Andy Griffith, of course, narrates this. Shirley Winters is on this. There's the Disneyland label. You see the little Frosty logo. This vinyl is actually in very good shape. I used to play this a lot when I was a kid. But those are just some of the sides of Christmas vinyl that I have. And some of these albums are just classics in my life, and some of them are things that I you know, bought recently, of course. But that's the point I wanted to kind of make from earlier on at the end of this. And this is not really musically related, but I thought this would be a good forum to say it. All of these records are from the past and represents joy and innocence. And, you know, just from watching recently made Christmas movies or, you know, looking at the culture around me, it's very different. I don't think children today are able to grasp at the innocence as easy. And I'm not going to assign blame to any changes in technology, but rather, you know, what I see out in the world. You know, certain things in the world are changing. Certain perceptions are changing. And a lot of people are talking about a war on Christmas, which of course doesn't really actually exist. Christmas is just evolving with the rest of us. It's always evolved with society. And when I look at Christmas movies, I don't think any of that brings the spirit down so much as seeing newer Christmas movies that revolve around children having to be with one or more parents if they're divorced. I mean, those aren't really stories to me that represent what Christmas is. Those represent social issues, and, you know, Christmas is basically a time to concentrate on, you know, finding joy, giving of oneself, you know, whatever you have, from your hands or from your heart. There are many, many ways to give. And a lot of people I know now are kind of closing in and turning inward and wanting to say it's mine rather than, not just share their material goods, but share important life lessons within themselves. Everybody feels they're entitled to their possessions, and most often their life. And at Christmas time, I think you do need, and the Nostalgia Critic here on YouTube did a video that said it well. He was reviewing a poorly made Christmas special. That Christmas is all about effort. Not the effort so much you put into just finding a material gift, but the effort you put into making the holiday special in some kind of way. And these days, I don't often see the effort made. People may just not feel good. I had trouble seeing it this year. But, you know, taking these albums out, I realized that, as they say in the movie Toys, the Grace Jones song in that, let joy and innocence prevail. Emphasis on the joy. So for all of you out there, even those of you who are hurting and suffering or unsure, and there's a lot of uncertainty, I'm sure, I hope you all have a joyous Christmas, and take out your Christmas music and enjoy it. It may lift you up and bring you to times where you could put all your woes aside and start out a new year fresh with joy and innocence. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. See you next time. Peace.